Suddenly, the light went out in the elevator and I heard a screech. Oh no, we're stuck! A handsome guy was in this trap with me, and apparently we're here for a while. But to be honest, I didn't really care about Mr. Hot Stuff. It was very stuffy in the elevator, and I felt drops of sweat dripping down my face. My heart felt weird. And why did I go to the mall today? A great ending to a summer vacation. I put my hand on my backpack and froze with horror. The package with the heart medicine was empty. I gasped for air and felt tension in my chest. This is how the attacks usually began. The lack of oxygen made me dizzy. Consciousness clouded, and I heard a low, velvety voice. Are you okay? The guy started banging on the elevator door and calling for help, but he realized it was pointless. After a moment, I lost my balance and felt strong male hands catching me. The pleasant smell of mint gum hit my nose, and I felt the touch of hot lips and pleasant goosebumps all through my body. Is he doing mouth to mouth? A fading thought flashed through my head, and I plunged into darkness. Oops, guys. I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Laura. I was born and raised in a picturesque place, the Great Lakes State, Michigan. And today, I'm here to tell you the extraordinary story of my love and how important it is to follow your heart, even if your closest friends convince you otherwise. But before I continue, please like and subscribe to the MSP channel, and then you'll get to know what happens next. So are you ready? I woke up in the hospital, wrapped in some kind of tubes. My mom was sitting next to me with teary eyes, holding my hand. Dad was pacing nervously around the room. Seeing me awake, he exclaimed, "Our baby is back with us! Oh, my happiness!" And for the first time in my life, I saw my dad crying. Can you even imagine? A strong-willed businessman with nerves of steel who owned a multi-million-dollar corporation. He could hardly hold back the sobs that squeezed his chest. The tears streamed down his cheeks, which he wiped with his cuffs from his white shirt. Mom and Dad hugged me tightly, and at that moment I felt an endless ocean of love and gratitude in my chest. You know, sometimes it's worth getting into some kind of trouble to start truly appreciating what you have. First of all, your family, that's always there for you, even if your relationship isn't perfect. After a warm hug, my mom didn't forget to give me a long lecture on the fact that I'm already 15 years old and therefore it's time to become responsible. Specifically, make sure there's always heart medication in my backpack. After all, such a misstep and forgetfulness could one day cost me my life. Let me explain. When I was born, doctors found an anomaly. My heart was located not on the left, as in healthy people, but on the right. And it was several times bigger than it should have been. And this is a serious malformation. My baby, there's so much love in you that it could only fit in a special heart, not like everyone else's. You have to be careful and selective with the people you let into it. Listen to your heart. It's your inner compass, and it'll never deceive you. My dad liked to repeat. And I believed him. How can you not trust a person who's successful in everything? Dad built a business empire from scratch, doing something everyone initially laughed at, fell in love with Mom and built a happy family with her. And I wanted exactly the same thing for me. At this thought, I closed my eyes blissfully, and my imagination immediately drew the image of the stranger from the elevator. As if it was real, I felt his strong embrace, the smell of mint chewing gum wafted in the air. Mom, Dad, how did I get to the hospital? Who brought me? I decided to carefully find out where my savior was. Laura, you don't remember anything at all? Mom asked worriedly. When you felt bad in the elevator, a young man, Darren or Dustin or something, his name starts with a D. He gave you first aid. If it wasn't for him, we would have likely lost you, Mom said, sobbing. Altogether, a great guy. He was up to the task. He called 911. The rescuers had to saw through the elevator door to get you out of there. All this time, he was doing mouth-to-mouth, keeping you alive. And then he spent the whole night at the intensive care door and left only when he was convinced that you were fine. I offered him money, but he didn't take it, said Dad and shrugged. Turned out that this guy with a name starting with a D didn't leave any of his contacts, and I couldn't even call him to say thank you. I couldn't stay in the hospital very long, and I returned to school very soon. The D guy turned into some kind of sweet mirage and disappeared into the hustle and bustle of everyday life. At times when I was getting sad and dreamed about him, but for some reason I doubted I would ever see him again. Sometimes it even seemed to me that the whole elevator thing was a dream. Dreaming about your mysterious D again? My best friend Veronica grumpily said. It's time to finally forget your savior and come down to earth. If he wanted to, he would have found you a long time ago. Why pine away for some phantom when there are so many cute guys around? Real ones that are not imaginary, understand? Take Ray, for example. He's an awesome guy. And besides, he's been after you for a long time, like a hungry wolf. Veronica was right. Ray wouldn't leave me alone for 6 months now. He got my phone number from one of my girlfriends, and every morning he sent me love poems of his own composition. I'm sure that Veronica had something to do with it. She wanted to arrange my personal life and make Ray and me a couple. Overall, it was hard to keep up with his wild popularity at school. Hanging out with him was prestigious. His father recently became my dad's business partner. My parents thought we would make a great couple and secretly hoped that this respectable young man would one day become a part of our family. Thus, all my closest people dreamed for us to be together. Can you even imagine? But something about Ray didn't feel right. As if my internal compass was pointing in a different direction, and a bright red light was flashing on the indicator panel, warning of some unknown danger. On my 16th birthday, Ray gave me a huge bouquet of roses in front of the whole school. You should have seen the faces of other girls who were punching the air with envy and anger. He was also very sweet and invited me to a restaurant after school to celebrate the new year of my life. Honestly, I melted with his attention and beautiful gesture. No one had treated me like this before, and I felt like a princess. Wouldn't any girl like such luxurious signs of attention? Ray took me to a cozy restaurant. He booked a table in the corner of the hall, hidden from the other tables with a large folding screen. He ordered everything I wanted, and live music was playing in the restaurant, and all evening I felt dizzying joy and butterflies fluttering in my stomach. Ray created a very intimate atmosphere and made my head spin. At some point, he put his hand on my knee. I saw his open mouth reaching for my lips like in slow motion, and for a split second, I saw the guy's face, as if under a magnifying glass. To be honest, yellowish teeth and a huge gap in the middle and large red pores near Ray's nose didn't really make me want to kiss him. A sweet memory of the minty smell, hot lips, and strong hugs in the elevator flashed through my mind again, evoking a half-forgotten state of falling in love and anticipation of something real. Meanwhile, Ray's face was getting closer and closer, and I understood that something had to be done immediately. Then I abruptly moved away from him and threw his pushy hand away from my knee. At the same time, I made an ugly face and involuntarily, "Ew!" burst out of me. There was an awkward silence for a couple of minutes. When it became unbearable, I tried to explain my behavior to Ray, who grew visibly dark and sad. "You see, it's not you. You're a nice guy. But I need time to get to know you better," I said embarrassedly. Ray was angry, but he kept it under control. Although from the whitened knuckles and clenched fists, I realized how hard it was for him to cope with his feelings. "Baby, it's okay," he squeezed out unconvincingly. Then he added quietly, "I'm ready to do anything for you to become mine one day. You won't belong to anyone else." Before I had time to digest what he'd said, the waiter came up to us and brought dessert. "What took you so long?" Ray asked the young boy angrily, and his eyes lit up with an evil fire. The waiter turned pale and shivered, and from his awkward movement, some of the whipped cream suddenly ended up on my dress. You should have seen how Ray's face changed. He yelled at the waiter in an inhuman voice, and his eyes were filled with blood. I got so scared I sank in my chair and watched what was happening without moving. The maitre d' came running out to all the screaming, and my companion immediately turned his anger on him. Ray calmed down only when he was promised that the boy who spoiled my dress would be fired. I was neither dead nor alive. I had a suspicion that Ray was suffering from some kind of mental illness. Well, an adequate and healthy person cannot act this way. Meanwhile, after his outburst of rage, Ray looked content and at peace. Nothing remained of his emotional breakdown, which had happened just a couple of moments ago. My companion smiled sweetly at me as if nothing had happened and asked if I wanted to order anything else. But to be honest, I was fed up. You must agree, it was too much for one evening. First, Ray's awkward attempt to kiss me. Yuck! I want to puke when I think about it. And then this ugly scene, at the memory of which I get cold sweats all over me. So I thanked my companion and asked to be taken home, saying I was tired. I would probably be thinking about this situation for a very long time, but what happened the next day turned my world upside down and made me forget everything. A real miracle happened. During the first class, the principal entered our classroom and introduced a new student, whose name was Darren. And it was the same Darren who had saved my life. What an amazing coincidence that you guys will probably find hard to believe." Yes, I couldn't believe it myself. I sat with my mouth open and stared at him calmly for the whole lesson. "Come on, is that really your mysterious D? He's okay." Veronica, who was sitting with me, whispered in my ear and looked at my savior, checking him out. Right after the lesson, Darren came up to me and embarrassedly said that we needed to talk. When we were walking to the school backyard, my big sensitive heart was beating with joy. Thump, 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 thump. I already knew that something special was happening in my life. Darren said that he'd been studying in Spain for many years and he was coming to our city only for the holidays. And last summer, right before leaving for Madrid, he met me, unfortunately under very sad circumstances that could have turned into a tragedy. Laura, all this year I was doing the impossible to get closer to you. I managed to convince my parents. They allowed me to come back and finish my studies in my home city. I took a lot of steps towards you, but they didn't matter if you didn't love me back or if your heart already belonged to someone else," Darren said in his velvety and trembling voice. "My heart has been waiting for you," I answered sincerely, and felt the familiar minty breath, the memory of which wouldn't let me bury my dream all this time, and now it was finally coming true. It suddenly started to rain heavily, but I didn't care. Darren and I felt like we were alone in the whole world. We stood there soaking wet and kissed in the rain. I watched warm raindrops run down the face of my beloved man. And I wished that this moment would never end. But our paradise was rudely ruined. Ray stood a meter away from us with bloodshot eyes, and a sharp blade flashed in his right hand. "How could you?" he growled in a voice not his own. The guy had obviously gone nuts. The next second, I felt a sharp pain in my chest, and my consciousness plunged into darkness. I woke in the hospital wrapped in some kind of tubes. My mom was sitting next to me with teary eyes, holding my hand, and Dad was pacing nervously around the room. "Wait, I've been here before," I thought in my head, and a strong déjà vu feeling hit me. But this feeling disappeared as soon as the door opened and Darren entered the room. His red, inflamed eyes told me he'd had a sleepless night. When he saw that I was awake, a smile appeared on his face. "Laura, I was so afraid of losing you again, but this time forever," my boyfriend whispered, holding my hand tightly. "You really scared us, baby. It's becoming some kind of bad tradition," Mom said sadly. "Baby, it's a miracle you're still alive." Dad shook his head in sorrow. "Ray was aiming right for your heart, but he miscalculated a little because he didn't know that your heart is on the right, not the left, and that's what saved you." My dad said that Ray was first taken to the police, but the medical examination revealed that he had mental illness, and now he's in a clinic. And Darren acted heroically again. Not only did he disarm Ray and call the cops, but he also provided me with proper first aid once again, even before the doctor arrived. "Honey, your mom and I are very happy that you have a boyfriend like this. Yes, no need to blush. Darren told us everything. He's your guardian angel," Dad added. And I closed my eyes in happiness and imagined my beloved angel hugging me with his big white wings.